It's the middle of the week and time for Wednesday Read. Our Wednesday reading learning goal is to analyze a complex set of ideas or sequence of events and explain how those specific individuals, ideas, or events interact and develop over the course of that particular text, whether that be fiction or nonfiction. At the end of today's lesson, you'll be asked to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 4, a 4 being that you're able to bring together the ideas in terms of how they relate. This happens through connections made between ideas, people, or events. The conclusions you draw are logical and incorporate the ideas presented by the author. And finally, there is a meaning made in the sense that you apply the material to your own life. If you're at a 3, which is kind of where we want everyone to be by the end of these Wednesday readings, it means you're able to bring together ideas in terms of how they relate, and this happens through those connections made between ideas, people, or events, and the conclusions you draw are logical and incorporate the ideas presented by the author, but you might not be able to apply them to your own life. If you're at a 2, that means you're able to bring together the ideas in terms of how they relate, and this happens through those connections between ideas, people, and events, but you struggle to draw effective conclusions about the material. And if you're at a 1, that means that you can recognize the content in the material, but you struggle to see any relationships or draw any connections or draw any conclusions about them. So as you read today and complete this assignment, consider where you're at in your ability to accomplish that learning goal. All right, Wednesday reading, let's get to it.
Hi, folks. I'm Bob Schrupp, physical therapist.
Brad Heineck, physical therapist.
We are the most famous physical therapists on the internet.
In our opinion, of course, Bob.
All right, the question of the day, Brad. Should you nap? Is it good? Bad? How long? How often?
Good questions. There's a lot of questions there, Bob.
By the way, I come from a long line of nappers. My dad took a nap. My mom just said she always used to not take a nap. She'd get work done.
Yeah.
During that period when the kids would lay down,
Yeah.
and after a while she found, what was I doing? I did wake up, I'd
join
be
in.
exhausted. Yeah. By the way, if you're new to our channel, please take a second to subscribe to us. We provide videos how to stay healthy, fit, pain-free, and we upload every day. Also, go to bobandbrad.com, go to the giveaway section. Always giving something away. We're giving away suspension straps
For exercise.
It's a workout. Yeah, it's a great workout.
I
You
love
gotta
them.
check out our video on that. Also, go to Facebook. Go to it'll be pinned to the top of the page, the contest, the Twitter,
Is that
Instagram.
right hand or the left hand side?
It's kind of right in the middle.
Right in the middle. Good.
Go to Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok if you want a 60-second
There you
version
go.
of our program. Actually, Brad, there's a fair amount of research on napping.
Mm-hmm.
But before I'm going to say that, there was a lot of notable people that were nappers. Winston Churchill, JFK, Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
He'd do it even during meetings. Albert Einstein, Thomas Edison. And this is when I went to Mayo Clinic, as you know, for my studies.
Sure.
And they made you read their biography of the two Mayo brothers.
Oh, that started it.
Yeah, and William Mayo.
Yep.
I worked at his house for a while as a
Did
waiter.
you get to meet him?
No, he was dead a long time. But he was a napper, and apparently, even when he'd have famous people over, he'd say, "I'm sorry, I gotta leave."
It's nap
And he'd go
time.
and nap. Yeah, I think the Queen of England was over one time,
Yeah.
and he got up and said, "I gotta go and take my nap."
I hope it didn't upset her.
Yeah, apparently not. So.
Well, there you go. Bob and Brad said it. Naps, huh? We'll get back to more of them in just a moment, but I want to talk about what we're going to do today as we talk about naps and if they're good for us or bad for us, or kind of where we land on that. I've got contradicting stories, and as you know, with our Wednesday reading, that's what we try to do. Bring up differing ideas and kind of force you to wrestle with those ideas and give me your thoughts as to where you land on the topic. So today we are going to start with some vocabulary. Then we are going to make a prediction based on what we think we'll read. We'll identify some evidence in each of the different articles. We'll write some if-then statements to kind of point out the inconsistencies. You will find another story written about the topic that maybe brings in something new, something that wasn't brought up in these two stories. And then you will read for 1 minute, record yourself reading for 1 minute, and send that off to me. Once you do that, you've earned your lesson or your unit for the lesson. So let's begin here with vocabulary. As the words pop up at the right in Edpuzzle, go ahead and write a definition there. Next up, we will make a prediction. What do you think you are going to read? If you looked at the titles, which I'll put on the screen now, let's go ahead and make a prediction of what you think will be the content of the two articles. All right, and right now, before we get into identifying evidence, let's take a look at the two stories. In a new tab, go ahead and open each article. Each one is linked at the right here shortly. Read each of them. Take some time to read each of them. And now we are on to identifying the evidence of the story. What do you think is the main point of the story of Article 1? We'll start there with Article 1. And how does the author prove that point? How does the author prove their point? This might be with statistics. This might be with quotes. It might be with personal stories. How does the author prove their point? What specifically, what directly from the text, what is explicitly stated in the text that tells you what the main idea of the story is? Now, let's take a look at Article 2. Is there statistics? Is there quotes? Is there personal stories in Article 2, which kind of help you identify the main idea of the main point of Article 2? What do you think does the author use to identify, to make clear the main idea of the text? What if I brought up this? From Article 1, it says, why is this quote important? When we took sociodemographic, lifestyle, and cardiovascular risk factors into account, this increased risk disappeared. Why do you think, what was going on? What is that in reference to? And why do you think the author used that quote to help support their point from Article 1? And then from Article 2, a quote that was used says, people who reported sleeping between 7 and 9 hours each night were least likely to develop cardiovascular disease, a finding in keeping with prior research. So how does that support the argument being made in Article 2? The author chose this piece of evidence, this quote, intentionally. Why? All right, and before we move on to if-then statements, which would be next, where we're going to kind of point out some of those inconsistencies between the first article and the second article, let's go back to Bob and Brad and learn a little bit more about sleep, because they're so clear and so straightforward with their knowledge.
Yeah.
So what are the negative parts of it? So
What are they?
well, there really aren't that many, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. One, if you take a nap too close to bedtime, it can affect your nighttime
well,
sleep. And we
yeah.
see that among the elderly when we work with them. Sometimes they
Yep,
can't sleep at night,
yeah.
and we go, "Did you sleep during the day?" No. You come in their room and they're zonked out. They don't even know they slept during the day.
Well, if you sleep too long in naps or too much in the day, you get your nights and your days
Yeah,
flipped
right,
out,
right.
flipped around.
So the other one is sleep inertia, and this has happened to me. And we're going to talk about when it's too long, what's the right time to take a nap,
Okay.
the amount of time. If you sleep too long, you get into that grogginess. You ever get to that where you took a nap, you woke up, and I was like God, I
Takes a
can't.
half hour. to
Yeah,
wake
yeah,
up.
yeah. You can't just.
Splash and just jump in the shower.
Yeah, right.
to
There's
get
just
going.
no getting it going. So you got to watch the amount of time to prevent that sleep inertia.
Yeah.
And number three, this is probably isn't a big one for me. It doesn't bother me. Is a stigma, like you're considered lazy if you take a nap, or
Absolutely.
the lack of ambition.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. 'Cause
Oh, darn
You're not a
right.
napper, are you? You once in a while you take one, right?
Yeah, but no, historically, man, well, you didn't nap when you're working. Well, you
Right.
couldn't. I mean, you got work to get done. You can't say, "Oh, I'm going to take a nap."
Well, I wouldn't take a nap. It's funny when I work construction at lunch, I'd tip over a wheelbarrow and
Yeah.
I'd lay in the wheelbarrow and take a nap for 15 minutes.
yeah, actually, it's a good. Yeah, it's. I know when I'm working, I'm thinking about work. I'm not thinking about a nap.
So
All right. I hope you learned a little bit from the best therapists on the internet. Here we are at if then statements. Your goal here is to point out inconsistencies between the two articles, even though they're on the same topic. One takes this approach and one takes this approach. So if this, then why this? I want you to kind of contrast, fight out the points between each article. Go ahead and do that now. You'll need to identify three. Identify the first one now. And a second one now. And a third one now. All right, let's add another link. Go out on the internet, find a news story about whether or not napping is good for you. You can just go straight to Google and type in, is napping good for you? And look for a study. Look for an article about a study that was done. And in the spot at the right in Edpuzzle, 1, copy and paste the link to the story. And 2, write out what new information took place. What was something new? What was something that was just added that wasn't explicitly stated in the first 2 articles that I provided? And lastly here, well, not quite lastly, second to lastly, let's record your reading 1 minute on a recording app, either on your iPhone or your Android, and send that to me. My email's on the screen, nathaniel.doimer@ist728.org. Just share that with me when you are done. And actually, lastly here, let's take a look at the learning goal, which if you're at a 4, a 3, a 2, or a 1, here are kind of what you should be able to do. And we talked about this near the beginning. I kind of went pretty in depth, so I'm not going to do that again. But I want you to give me a rating and tell me why you rated yourself as you did. Why did you give yourself a 2? Why did you give yourself a 4? Wherever you land, why did you rate yourself as you did? And completing this question along with every other one listed here earns you your unit for today.